Trumbull Historical Society. This is the other co-president, Deb Silver. Thank you so much for coming today. We're so pleased to have Rita Daniels here to talk about her book. And before we start, I want to introduce Wayne Winston, who got us all together here. And he's going to do an introduction, introduce Rita. So go ahead.
Well, first I want to thank everybody for coming out. If I sound familiar, a lot of you have listened to me on the radio on WICC with Lisa Wexler. She is my co-host. So every Wednesday we get into it, and I'll tell you, once we got started out, man, we weren't sure how long it was going to last. Because realistically, you have a black man and a Jewish woman on the same show, and we're talking about stuff that's sometimes a little bit thorny, okay? But in all, it's worked out very well, and we have an amazing audience, and a lot of them are in this room, so I want to thank you guys, because I really don't get the chance to see the audience either. So the person who's visiting with us today, and I live in Trumbull, by the way, the person visiting us today is Living Ancestry. I was fortunate enough to meet her about 15 years ago during a Juneteenth event, which just might be banned soon. However, you know, we're going to roll with it for as long as we can. And she is someone that turns out that she is the descendant of Harriet Tubman. Now, that's 3 times great niece, Harriet Tubman. There's not too many people left that have that type of ancestry, and that's what makes it special. So I'm fortunate enough in our communities to see a lot of people, meet a lot of people, but she's something special, and her family has been honored all throughout the country. We were on the Today Show yesterday, and we're working on that clip. And the Today Show, they had the amazing host, Al Roker, etc. And they always ask her what was the thing that she remembers most, what affected her the most. You're going to be able to ask some of those questions, but you're going to see some of them in the actual video, because I know at 9 o'clock, a lot of people are working during the week. Yeah. So the clip answers a lot of those. So when you have questions, just definitely don't be afraid to ask them after. These wonderful ladies put this thing together very quickly. So you have to give them a round of applause. And Sujata Wilcox was absolutely very instrumental in getting everybody together. And I want to say hello to my friend Tara down here. We go way back. And we were trying to do something with her some years ago. And Tara was right on board from the beginning. You know, so it's come a long way since she was here 2 years ago. She has a book out. We just found out that it has just been recognized on the New York Times. It's number 6 in one category. It went from 100 to 6 after the Today Show. So it shows the power of that medium. So I'm very fortunate to be able to represent this young lady. Met her about 15 years ago, and we've been friends ever since. I'm lucky that she chose me to be the person that helps to honor her family. So I greatly appreciate everybody's here. So I'm going to turn this over to...
We're going to have, Deb is going to we're going to have it's going to be very informal. It's going to be a question and answer. But we'd like Rita, do you mind reading part of your excerpt from your book? Or?
Oh, I can do that.
Okay, we can bring the book over.
Do the video first, or?
Oh.
How would you like to do
Oh.
it?
We're still working on the
Yeah,
video.
So an excerpt from the book, and I have to tell you, regrettably, it's been a great couple of days. We've been in New York, we've been in Westport, we sold every book we have. However, we do have, which is good news, you know, but we're trying to get them from the author, from the publisher, Simon & Schuster, by the way. Pegasus have been awesome. In fact, the publisher was with us all day yesterday in New York. So what we have is author stickers. She's going to sign the sticker for you. When you get the book, you put it in, it's really her signature. So whether it's inside the page, it's still her signature. So for everybody here, we're going to make sure that we do that. So we regret it. We tried to hang on, but it was like, hey, wait a minute. They're chasing your car and everything. I don't want to get beat up for a book. So. But again, thank you. And Miss Rita Daniels.
And then you didn't tell them that we also were at the United Nations.
Oh, yes. You know what? I do have to mention that. How did I forget that? We had what should have been a 20 or 30-minute meeting at the United Nations. We got to meet Queen Mother, and she's been at the UN for over 30 years. She deals with global humanity issues and humanitarian issues. Right now, this book is going to be featured next month. And a mega thing that they have for women that they do annually, and they're talking over 10 million women participate in this thing globally. And at the UN, they have this massive event for it. So the book is going to be featured there. And I just want to say, you know, there's so much going on. We have to keep our humanity and just remember that everybody's the same. We have to love each other, and that's how God made us. I have many friends from all different cultures, whatever your party, whatever. If we keep our civility and remember that we're all people, man, that's what makes life better, and that's what makes things work. And I have a friend who's an Italian, and he's a good friend of mine. We go way back, and he says, you know, Wayne, if, my dad was a very tough guy on him, and he was like, he wanted to keep the old ways. And as he got older, he realized he realized the old ways, things were changing. And he said it was very, very difficult for him. He says, but in the end, he says about 10 years before his dad passed away, he says that he felt that he was reborn in some way. Now, I don't know what that meant by that. That's the way that that's the way he described it. He says because things were changing, and he was finally able to make the change. So whatever that meant for his dad and what it meant for him was something to, so everybody, sometimes things happen all throughout our lives, so I don't want to take away from Rita over here. She has had some amazing challenges. She reflects so much of her family's history, and I'm very, very happy. So you can't get anything better than that. So thank you very much, and hey, we'll be inviting you to the UN. You guys want to take a road trip? Put everybody in the car, let's go. Okay.
Rita, do you have a excerpt that you want to
I'm
read?
trying to see which one, because there are a lot of them.
I mean, I like the military scout chapter because it told so much about how clever she was and how bright she
You want
was.
to this young man over here did a phenomenal job and found it.
Excellent. Do you want to do the clip first? Then?
Yeah, let me do this.
Okay, all right.
Yay.
Harriet Tubman guided people across the Mason-Dixon line from slavery to freedom on the Underground Railroad.
Her accomplishments and contributions are explored in the new book called Harriet Tubman, Military Scout and Tenacious Visionary.
And the book is actually co-written by her great-great-great-grandniece, Rita Daniels, and Rita is with us this morning. Rita, thank you so much for coming by.
Hey, thank you.
I mean, we're going to dig into the book in just a moment, but first of all, when and how did you even find out that you were a direct descendant of Harriet Tubman?
It's kind of crazy, but when I was 9 years old, I had to do a report, and I was given the topic of Harriet Tubman. Well, at my age, what we found out, there were 2 paragraphs about Harriet Tubman, and it didn't have anything nice about her. She was a fugitive, she stole slaves, and there was a want-ad for her.
Mm-hmm.
They had a bounty on her head. And so when I told my mother about it, and they said, I have to do a report on Harriet Tubman. And my mother said, oh, okay, well, I found out that we were related to Harriet Tubman. She didn't find out until she was in her 20s. And then my Aunt Pauline, who is 97, she is the oldest living descendant today. And she told me she was 25, but when I got that report, I was told to go and ask some of the other relatives that were closer, that knew stuff about her, my grandparents and so forth. They passed on, but after finding out all about her and her progressive life, my whole idea about her changed. And so that's when I started spearheading and trying to figure out more about who she was, and I fell in love with her.
Well, there's a lot to fall in love with. I mean, considering, I mean,
was that she was poor. She didn't have money, but she was able to feed a lot of people, especially when she got the Harriet Tubman home for the age. Because I'm from Auburn, New York, where she lived the last 50 years of her life, and there's where I learned a lot about Harriet Tubman. And I just thought she was such a phenomenal woman. Basically, from the books that I read when I was young, but then I just started doing more research on her, and that's when I got to the point, well, I'm going to see what more I can do about it, and then I just started speaking about Harriet Tubman and going places, and even today I'm going to be meeting with Queen Mother, going to the United Nations with her, and she was just excited because not only that, she's got other people understanding the legacy that Harriet Tubman left behind, and that's what my goal is, to make sure that her legacy continues.
Yeah, and in the book, we learned so much about what a hero she was to so many. So what do you want people to take away when they read this book?
That Harriet Tubman was a proud woman. She never got caught going back and forth, making her trips from Maryland to Philadelphia, and then they came out with the Fugitive Act also, and so she had to make a U-turn and go through Canada to save her family. But for someone that made all of those trips, a lot of people went through the Underground Railroad. They made it to the other side and they stopped, once they got there. But she was that brave to go back and didn't care if she was going to get caught or not. And that's where her bravery is just so phenomenal.
Rita, thank you. Thank you. I know you've got a busy day, so I appreciate you starting with us. It's called Harriet Tubman, Military Scout and Tenacious Visionary. And that book is out today. Hey, thanks for watching. Don't miss the Today Show every weekday at 11 a.m. Eastern, 8 Pacific.
What I can honestly say is I was very honored to be on that show. The visibility of trying to get this book together and getting it put out, it's just been a phenomenal adventure, pretty much a journey. And based on what you've just seen, does anyone have any questions of what was already spoken about? And I could read a little bit through the book, but I just wanted to see what you already heard from what I had said in this interview.
Good question. I didn't realize she had gone up to Canada. Can you explain that a little bit more? Why did she go to Canada?
At that particular time, they came back with the Fugitive Act, which meant that even if you were a free slave, the Fugitive Act allowed others to go and pull them back in. One of the persons that's instrumental in making sure that some of the slaves went back, it was a Patty Cannon. She's in this book. She was very instrumental in trying to catch slaves and send them back wherever. So Patty, she approached the Harriet Tubman family, but the parents, she couldn't get near them. And Harriet Tubman at that time was like very young when Patty Cannon was out trying to recapture slaves. So for me, I think understanding Harriet Tubman's journey from a little girl, from basically even her grandmother, Modesty, who was the one relative or family member that was taken from Ghana, taken in chains, removed from her home. Now, her name is Modesty, but we know that was not her name when she left there. No one really knows what her name was. We just know her as Modesty. And she was named by her slave master, her owner, and he purchased her. And then, the slave masters, they were owners. So that meant I owned you, I own your body, I own everything about you. And so the slave master, John Green, he would, I would say, take advantage of modesty because it was his property. And so he would take advantage of her, and she ended up pregnant and gave birth to Harriet Tubman's mother. That was her name. They also called her Rit, R-I-T. And my mother said, you know, the first 3 letters of your name, Rita, is what? R-I-T. I'm like, okay. What are you saying? I'm not, but anyways, that's what she would say to me. And Rit and Ben Ross, they gave birth to 9 children. Harriet Tubman was the fifth born. So this young girl, ever since she was a little girl, she was more like a rebel. She defied all kinds of things. Somebody tell her to go right, she's gonna go left. And at the age of 6, she was supposed to take care of her slave woman little baby. Now she's 6 and she's taking care of maybe a 3-month-old baby. Now while she's sleeping, Harriet, and at the time her name was Minty, Araminta, she would take care of this baby, and she would have to hold the baby and not let the baby cry. Because if the baby cried, she's gonna wake up, mommy's gonna wake up. So, of course, the little 6-year-old, she's dozing off alongside the baby, and then I guess the baby might have fallen a little bit, and the baby starts crying, and the mom gets a switch, and she wants to beat the 6-year-old. To me, this is just heartbreaking, only because you want a 6-year-old to take care of a baby. They're both babies. And so, just knowing her story and how she managed to escape from all of that. And so at the age of 6, she would go with her father and learn about the sky, the sun, the moon, stars, celestial learning is what she was getting. And so by the time as she got older, she knew more about it. Her parents, they taught her all about healing and certain herbs that she could use and so forth. But one of the things that astonished me the most was how she became like the Moses of her people. When I say the Moses of her people, it was because by the time she turned 13, she was in a hardware store or in a specific store, and there was a slave in there with his slave master, and the slave wanted to run away from him, and the slave master threw out a heavyweight. That heavyweight did not hit the slave, but it hit Minty. And it hit her in the head, and she went into a deep sleep coma for a while, and then she had to go with her parents to get healed. But from that healing, she started getting messages. Her healing with God, she had a relationship with God. She already knew from the stories that they would receive from a minister would come on Sundays and preach their Bible. But it's called the slave Bible. It was not the Bible that had everything in it. The slave Bible had missing parts. But in that particular Bible, that minister would read the book about Moses and how Moses would go to Pharaoh and ask Pharaoh to let my people go. And that was a story that, and remember, those people were Israelites, and they were slaves under Pharaoh. And so he wanted them to be let go. Eventually that did happen. In the meantime, the story that stood in the mindset of Minty was, if Moses can do it, I can do it too. So as time would go by, you know, she found out that some of her brothers were going to be sold, and she wanted to leave. And so she got the two brothers and decided by the time then she was in her 20s and she was ready to leave. But she was getting information from the Quakers. The Quakers were telling her that you can leave, you need to leave because slavery is wrong. They were putting all that in her mindset, and she just believed that. And they told her about the Underground Railroad because she's not the only one that went through that Underground Railroad. All the people who left the Underground Railroad made it to the other side and stayed. They were not going back. But Harriet, she left with her brothers, and they were on their way. Now, Harriet had spells where she would have what you would call narcolepsy and fall asleep. I don't care where she was, she would fall asleep, 30 minutes, 45 minutes, whatever length of time they would let her sleep and wake up. And the two brothers decided, they didn't want to do that. They decided to go back. But Minty said, I'm not going back. She kept going, and she made it by herself. The journey to Philadelphia. She found out once she got over there, she was a free woman. She was able to change her name to that of her mother. Her mother was Harriet. And that's when Minty, Araminta, changed her name to Harriet. That's where the Harriet name came from, her mother. So when she got to the point of her being free, she needed to make sure that she had to go back and get other family members. She worked a while in Philadelphia, but she knew that something was missing, her family. And so she went back to see if she can get more, and each time she would leave with more family. She would sing certain spirituals. And by then, there was already a bounty looking for her because there's some slaves that are missing. Even her, she was already gone. So they were looking for her, but she would dress in disguises. Just a smart woman who had no education. She couldn't read, she couldn't write, but she had what you would call the God sense and common sense and certain insights that no one else had. Just a phenomenal woman. Not just reading the story, there's parts of this book that would just more than likely bring tears to your eyes from some of the things that some of the people had to go through. Even when Harriet, in modesty, found out that she was pregnant, she still had to work the fields. And of course, for the very first few months, she never even knew she was pregnant until one of the other slave told her that she was with child. So she finally gave birth to that child. And that was Harriet, the mom. So, without giving too much about the book, because I can tell the whole story, and then you won't need it. But the thing is, once I get started talking about her, it's very hard to stop. Because I want people to understand that this is a woman who defied all the odds. She defied everything, and she made it. And she would say, I'm not going back. I'm not going back. And that makes us proud, because if she had gone back, we would not know how it would turn out. And she ended up living in Auburn, New York, where I'm from. Born and raised, my mom's from there, my grandmother's from there. And she lived the last 50 plus years of her life in Auburn. So she had the home for the age. She had property that she had purchased from William Seward, who was actually like an attorney there. But he sold her the property for $1,200. Now this is about 8 acres of land. $1,200? Okay, can you get 800? I mean, 8 acres of land today for that amount? And she only paid as when she could. And then the other book that was written by, that Harriet Tubman was actually a part of, was written by a white woman. Her name was Sarah Bradford. Sarah Bradford loved Harriet and helped by writing a book. And they sold them they were selling it just for the sake of raising money so she can keep the home for the aged. Because she didn't charge any money. She didn't do any of that. All she wanted to do was help those people. And her last trip, going back to going back to Maryland, she got her parents. And they had to go through Canada because they had the Fugitive Slave Act enacted. And people were out there bounty hunting and looking for them because they were going to make money off of this. All they needed to do was find more slaves. I just look at a strength of this woman, what she has instilled not just in myself, but in some of my other family members. We've all gone through something. Life wasn't always easy. I was stalked for like 2 years by someone that wanted me dead because I didn't want a relationship with someone. I was a young girl. I was 18, 19. I modeled back in the day. At the time, I was beautiful. I fell out. No, I'm kidding. And he ruined that opportunity. He told me if he couldn't have me, no one else would want me. So I was stalked. I mean, I've been stabbed by him, still lived. I was cut by him, almost hit by a car, many things. Now you're not gonna find it in this book. That's a whole different story. But I'm just saying, if it hadn't been for my mother reminding me of how Harriet Tubman, she was pulled down on many occasions, but she would get back up and keep going. And that is what I had to do. I had to get up and keep going. Otherwise, I was ready to die. I mean, when I say I was badly beaten, I was. I didn't like the way I looked. This person cut up everything that I owned, snuck in my apartment. I had to move within 8 months. I had moved from one house to an apartment and about 5 times within 8 months. Because he was after me, he wanted me gone. And so when I tell that part, she is one of the persons that, just knowing her stories, because I never knew her personally, but knowing her story, and I'm sure there's people out there who know someone who's going through some stuff, depression, wanted to die and so forth. I mean, I felt like that. But it was her story that my mother would tell me about, that you cannot give up. Because if God wanted to take you, he would have. He would have allowed this, but you have a story to tell. And that's what I'm doing, telling my story. So, from all of this, I know Harriet Tubman could not read, nor could she write. And I started a learning center, helping the underserved, underprivileged children. These are children who were going to either fail in school. And so starting that learning center, to me, was also our way of giving back to the legacy of Harriet Tubman, and it was called the Harriet Tubman Learning Center. And if, we're on the website, harriettubmanlearningcenter.org. There's ways that we're looking for people to donate to help us get the schools back open. Now, I had it in Georgia, but now we're looking at having a learning center right here in Connecticut. We're looking in DC, Philadelphia, of course in Auburn, New York, where I'm from, and then of course I'm living in Atlanta. So those are just a few places. But I'm getting calls and people want to do it, and I told you, every city that wants a learning center has to raise their own funding in order to do that, because it's the only way it can be done. But I hear about the children here in Bridgeport. I hear about the children who can't read or who are slow behind. The learning center that we had, not only did we teach them to get back up, that's one of our mottos, but we also teach them things that even, they may be failing, they can't read, they're behind. But we show them how to build a robot. We do STEM, robotics. We have mentoring. We have all of these people coming in, and the majority of the people were volunteers who had skills. They would come in, and we'd set them on the calendar, and we'd have a pile of kids who want to learn. The main thing we would do with these underserved kids, we make sure we fed them. How would you even know? Even myself, I never knew these kids would go most of the day without eating. The only time they ate was when they were in school. And you feed a heart, you feed these children, then you give them something that is opposite what they're failing in. Give them something that will perk them up. I mean, every child that we had that built a robot, or even when they just came to the learning center, whatever they were lacking or failing in, they could go back to their school, and I mean, the majority of the kids already knew the work, but there was always something missing. And that is my story. And so if anyone would like to donate to the Learning Center, feel free. We need the funds. There's a, in the back of the book, there's a QR code where folks can do that. But we also want to know about you, how you can contribute to the Learning Center. Maybe there's a skill that you could bring into the Learning Center as well, okay? Yes, questions?
Just say a little more about Auburn. My wife and I were up in Auburn, and they have a wonderful museum up there. And it was very impressive what they were saying. I have two questions. Was Harriet married and then she left her husband? Is that part of the story?
The first part of the story, Harriet Tubman was married twice.
He was what?
She was married 2 times.
Oh, okay.
Her very first husband was John Tubman, okay? John Tubman was already a free man, but she wanted to be free as well. She told her husband that she was going to leave because she wanted to be free and wanted him to go with her, but he doesn't want to go.
He didn't go.
As a matter of fact, he told her. So, Harriet, what she did, she found this time to leave. She didn't, she told him she was gonna leave, but she didn't tell him when. And he left, and she left right away. So after she left, she got everything together, and she got her freedom and everything, and then she made a trip back. When she makes the trip back, she finds out, lo and behold, her husband already married somebody else, Caroline. So yes, that was that first husband. So she was disappointed. It hurt her, but she
So
wanted.
she went back to get him.
She went back to get him. Then she found out that he was already married to someone else.
Wow.
Those marriages back there were a lot different. You can't just, not like today. you gotta go through a divorce and all that kind of matter, you know, nothing was really on paper at that particular time. But as time went by, she still eventually met Nelson Davis. Nelson Davis was her second husband, who was in the military, was a builder, a bricklayer, and so forth. And he was 20 years younger than her too. But they married, and he ended up dying eventually because he had tuberculosis. But Harriet Tubman, she still kept going. So there's where the two marriages come from.
Wow, thank you.
They didn't have railroads, they didn't have airplanes and stuff like this. And she went back to get her mother and father, and she had to hide in the winter. How did she get from Canada to New York, Pennsylvania, and all those places in the which way to go?
Good question.
Well, one of the things that she had learned was the celestial. She knew how the stars, and she would look at the roots on a tree. Something, I guess the roots, certain roots would grow on the left side of a tree that would tell her it's going north. And the main thing she wanted to do was go north. She knew the north, there were no slaves. However, the south, there it was. So it was based on certain plants that were growing, and she could tell just by that which way she was going the right way. Yes.
Thank you. I was just wondering, I was reading about Frederick Douglass just yesterday, and I read where he went to England because of the Fugitive Slave Act. Same reason Harriet Tubman probably went to Canada. And these British people legally bought his freedom, right? They raised money, they raised like $700 to buy his freedom. So they paid off the original owner, and so he was like legally a free person. Did Harriet ever have that? Somebody, or was she, you know, a fugitive for her whole life?
Well, she was a fugitive for a very long time, and then I mentioned that my parents, well, my mother, she didn't find out that she was even related to Harriet Tubman until she was in her 20s. And so, and then her parents, my mother's parents, no one ever talked about Harriet Tubman back then. They knew that she was a fugitive, and no one was going to tell on her. They knew where she was, they knew where she would hide, and if the bounty hunters came looking for her, no one knew where she was. And she would hide on her own property way in the back of there, because she purchased that 7 to 8 acres of land. And so she would hide. It was all brush, you know. They didn't have streets like we have, you know. They can find you easily. There is nothing but trees and mush and brush and dirt, stones, whatever. They would never find her.
How many folks did Harriet rescue in her journeys, and how many journeys did she make?
Okay, so there's just so many different stories. One of the things that the way my mother would explain it to me was, they say she made 7 trips, 6 to 7 trips. And then she also possibly would have made 19. Now, the difference in all those numbers has a lot to do with, there's some confusing. Remember, she was military. A lot of those soldiers were freed, and there was about 300 of them. She was responsible for that. But then when it came to her family, and there was about 70 people that she had helped free. Now, the reason why there's a difference in the numbers, it is because not all of those trips were from part A to part B. There was some in between. So she might have gone backwards, or maybe even halfway, and there were other people So they could not be counted. But Harriet Tubman, when she made the journey, she wasn't counted. These are numbers that we've been told. Okay, those are the ones that we go by because we have no other way. Now, there's some people who have books and say she didn't do this and she didn't do that, but we already know that Harriet Tubman did not know how to read, and so she certainly did not go to the, you know, if you're gonna leave a state or whatever, we know that she did not go to City Hall. There's someone that has that information and that she, you know, it's written that she made all of these trips and she's taken the hoop. If you're stealing slaves, if you're doing this, why are you gonna put it in writing? So there's a lot of things that we're questioning. Nothing is in gold, but based on our research for the book itself, we made sure that there was backup to whatever we had, and you won't find us saying that she went to City Hall to make sure.
Do you know what her birthday is?
Okay, so they're saying that she was born in 2022. Now, no one actually knows. Some say it was March 2022. I grew up.
1802?
I'm in the current, see, okay.
You're lost. Come back, come back.
Back up. It was 1822.
Okay.
And then some people say it was 1820. Okay. And when we were growing up, it was always 1820. It was until just more recently, all these scholars and people, you know, she couldn't have been there because of, there's a little sheet of paper that says the baby was born on a certain day. But it was not tied to Harriet Tubman. So I'm just saying there's just certain things that we don't believe. But we're going with the 1822 only because it's all over now. But that is, yeah.
And this is about you, we're back in your history. Go back to when you were 9, and you're given this assignment on Harriet Tubman, and you're given a few clips of information. And then you go to your mom and you say, Mom, what am I gonna do about this? And she goes, oh, well, you know, that I've got more information for you. And so here you are, 9, and you're doing this project for school, is that what it is?
It was, I had to do an essay.
You had to do an essay. And so then you get, how did you know when to stop collecting information, writing the essay, turning it in, and what was your grade?
Well, I got an A++. I did. And for me, once my mother told me that she was not the villain that people thought she was, I wanted my essay to be right. And I wanted I had to go to other family members, people that were older than my own mom. You know, my grandmother, who happens to be, okay, so my mother's mother was the great niece to Harriet Tubman. And my grandmother's mother was the niece to Harriet Tubman. It was Mary, they called her Mary, Mary Gaskin. And all I can say is that just knowing all this information, it seemed like it was just too much. And for a 9-year-old, putting all this on paper, I know it's all over the place, but my mom helped me kind of put things in perspective. And because I write, Aunt Arlene said so-and-so and so. Aunt Lyda said this and this and this. And so mom would say, okay, you're gonna combine these because they're telling you the same thing. I said, but I was just writing all this down. And that's how I end up with my document and putting it together. I don't know where that document is, but only reason why I remember is because I put so much into it. The minute I found out that, number one, I'm related to this woman, and I'm like, Mom, I cannot be I actually remember my mindset, knowing I'm related to a thief, someone that was, had a bounty on their head, and that, yeah, well, the fact that she's wanted, like, oh my gosh, wow, we're related to her. Does that run in the family? You know, as a 9-year-old, it's like, wow, I don't want to be a part of that. I don't want that. But that's why my mom told me to seek other information, because they all had different stories. And my Aunt Lida, she was 5 years old when she went to Aunt Harriet's funeral.
Now, how much family is still on the homestead, or did you know family on the homestead in Auburn, or?
Well, just so you know, there's family on both sides. Remember, she started in Maryland, okay? She ended up in Auburn, but she went to other places. So we have relatives in Maryland that we don't know. And on their side, they have relatives that's still in Auburn, they don't know. Now, Aunt Pauline, who is the oldest living descendant right now, as of today, she's 97. And a lot of the information, that's how I found out about the slave Bible. All I would do is just, Aunt Pauline, you know, because my mom was already gone. She had passed away 4 years ago. And, you know, even to this day, it's real hard because she is the reason that I did the Harriet Tubman legacy thing, because she felt that that was going to pull me out of my deep depression. That knowing her story, that if she could come out of it, so can you. Because she kept going, and that's what you have to do. If God wanted you to be gone, He would have taken you. So that is my story, and I'm sticking to it.
Could you say something about the person with whom you worked to produce this book? You met an author who helped you? Could you say
Yes.
something about her and the interaction between you and her?
Her name is Jean Marie Wiesen, all right? So I was here. Actually, I was in Westport at an event where they were celebrating Juneteenth,
Oh,
okay? I didn't know this person at that time. It was 2.5 years ago. Well, as a matter of fact, my buddy Wayne was with me, and I gave a presentation about Harriet Tubman. And when I was done, there were other groups there, and so we both started walking around, and here comes this woman, she's following me. And I turn around and she says, hi, my name is Jean Marie Wiesen. I'm like, okay. She says, I'm a writer. I says, okay. She says, your story, you telling that story, it just brought a lot to me. There's something about her story that needs to be told. I said, well, there's a lot of people who've got books out there. She says, no. Her story is, whoever is telling her story is not telling it with the heartfelt mindset.
Right.
And it takes the right person to put her story together. And she told me she's a mystery writer. Oh, you write mystery? Okay. Harriet Tubman's story is the mystery, but, you know. But so we exchanged cards, and we went our separate ways, and she said she'll more than likely give me a call later in the week. She had some things in her mindset, but she wants to make sure. 3 days later, Jean called me. She says, you know, Rita, I can't not even sleep because all I can think about is your story. And I want to write this story with you, alongside you. And I'm like, oh, okay, that's interesting. I only met her that one time.
Yeah.
And I said, you know what's so funny is that I started writing about Harriet Tubman, but I could never get it finished.
Right.
Because I'm not an actual writer who could just do that totally. I work. And so where am I going to find time? You know, I would always start something and never get there. But Jesus, when that's all I do, I'm a writer. So when we started really collaborating and trying to see how we could put it together, she would start writing. And I didn't critique anything. She would write it, send it to me, and I wouldn't comment. I wouldn't say anything. Because for me, I wanted to see where she was going with her story. Was she really wanted to tell her story, the truth, or be one of those that's out telling falsehoods? And so that was important to me. And so as I started reading it, it was probably a month later. She had put some things together, and I was going through it. No, this is not going to work. No, yeah, but so we had our disagreements and agreements, but in the long run, we were able to put together the book, and it was done long distance. She's here, and I'm in Georgia. So
you were phoning and visiting
Zooming,
one another?
we were doing Zoom, we were phoning,
Zoom?
staying on the phone hours sometimes. I'd have my speakerphone on, and she was going, well, what do you think about this one here? And so there were things that she wasn't sure about, because I told her about the slave Bible. I told her that the story could not start with Harriet Tubman in Maryland. The story has to start in Ghana, where her grandmother came. I said, because I know that's my ancestry goes that far back. And so she said, you know, you're right, because people want to know, you know, who all these other people are that's playing a role in her life. So yeah, it started there.
Wow.
I was wondering, have you been to Ghana?
My mother and aunt, they've all been there, but my mother did say that I need to go. And my manager over there, standing back there, he's working on our trip to Ghana. I'm not sure when it's going to come to fruition, but we had that program, we had all kinds of things. I'm just waiting because, you know, he knows the people.
No pressure, right?
Just a reminder, you know, and where I'm at right now, that's what I want to do. That my mother said you have to go. Now I do know some of the things, the castles or the dungeons that they went through. We have some pictures in here, but those are pictures that my mom brought back from their trip. But before I'm gone, that trip will be made, probably within the next.
Less than a year. Less than a year.
Now everybody heard that, right?
You can take that off. Edit.
Some video now.
Well, two questions, and I'll be really quick. One, where is the Black Bible? And two, who is the Queen Mother you keep talking about?
Queen Mother, she wrote the foreword for the book.
Okay.
Not only that, she's from Ghana, but she lives in Harlem, New York. We met with her yesterday when we went to the, where did we go? Geez, UN. When we went to the UN, and we sat with her, and I've met her before, but we felt that she would really bring a lot of the story to surface because of her Ghana background. Not only that, she's still traveling all over the world. She's been to the UK, she's gone, and she is just a great person to sit down and talk to. And she's actually informing me of all the things that I need to do to make sure this story gets out. She is also the reason why our book is going to be in the United Nations library. We talked to all the people there, the manager in the store and everything. They're like, yes, just have your publisher call, and we'll get it in. But Queen Mother is the person that, they call her Queen Mother of Harlem. And I mean, I could just read some of the things about her. She has this long, it's not that long. She writes in her book, in our book, and as the forward, her name is Queen Mother, Dr. Dolores Blakely. She, right now, this picture in here, she's in front of the Harriet Tubman statue in Harlem, New York, and there's where we went yesterday.
Yes.
And took pictures of there. She says, education of the underserved has been my passion for as long as I can recall, assisting those in the direst need among us. I was honored to be appointed United Nations Goodwill Ambassador to numerous African nations, including Ghana, several decades ago, which was a high honor for me. My being named Community Mayor of Harlem is an equal honor as well. When I was approached to write the foreword for Harriet Tubman, military scout and tenacious visionary, I did not hesitate. The phrase, "Ain't I a woman?" spoken by Sojourner Truth, a close ally of Harriet Tubman, came to mind. We're all of a similar background with the same mission, freeing those who are in bondage. Too many stories abound of Harriet Tubman, none of which an author has penned directly with a descendant of Harriet's since Sarah Bradford Hopkins herself interviewed Harriet in 1886. Finally, Jean Marie Wiesen, an investigative author, has carefully researched and collaborated with Rita Daniels, a 3-time great-grandniece of Harriet Tubman. We learn more of Harriet's immense courage, spirit, and leadership skills under fire in spite of a childhood head trauma. Harriet's theme throughout her life was putting others first until her final breath. Come on, come on, come on, through like a river. Queen Mother Dr. Dolores Blakely. And so she was very instrumental, and we're very careful on who did that. And then even on the back of this book, we have your senator, Richard Blumenthal. He wrote, he said, I had the distinct pleasure of personally meeting Rita Daniels, the great-great-great-grandniece of Harriet Tubman. I listened intently while she elaborated on oral history, passed down through the generations, telling the rich story of one of America's most beloved iconic figures. At last, she and Jean Marie Wiesen have put these stories on paper, filling in numerous gaps and correcting many long-standing errors. This book should be read by every American. And then we have Lisa Webby. We even got a Kirkus review, and I don't know if anyone knows what Kirkus is, but they're like one of the very top reviewers for books, and they've got the Harriet Tubman familiar aspects of Tubman's story are accentuated and expanded with what has been gleaned from family lore. Having had a front row seat to the ways Tubman has been studied, dissected, and honored, Daniels grants both authoritative history and authentic humanity to a story frequently segmented for political expediency or specialized study, leaving readers with a fuller understanding of Tubman's unique bravery, fortitude, and leadership. And that Kirkus review was much longer than that. We just could not put it all in. But I just wanted you to see that your senator was a part of that.
All right.
So
Hear that.
we're getting close to running out of time. So there's 2 things I wanted to do. One is, I want to again thank you a lot. Hey, Super Bowl's tomorrow, I know. But you know, you said, hey, forget about the Super Bowl. We're right here with Rita, okay, getting ready. I know someone got to go shopping. As you can tell, she's an amazing person. I mean, to have that, and she loves her family and covets them. And again, it's my honor to be here in my town and having her, because she was only in Westport, she's been in Weston, Bridgeport, and Trumbull, and she's leaving, going back, you know, to Powder Springs. She's got a lot of stuff coming up. May 10th is Harriet Tubman Day. We usually do something online with the Zoom. And one of the things she was talking about was Senator Blumenthal, a number of our representatives, call in and participate on that. So we have people from all over the country. And because of the confusion about the date of birth, which comes up a lot, that's why we do the Harriet Tubman Day, because we know that's the day she passed. So here in Trumbull, maybe we could do something. Do the Historical Society, have a little more time to plan for this. Do a Zoom, we'll figure out a way to connect and participate, because it's open to everybody. I need to share, you know, some of the things that Rita shares that she won't hear. It's still like she feels a lot of the pain of her ancestors through that. Because when it's a part of your family, you still feel some kind of way. It's a story of early America, you know, and the great thing about America is we can correct things. And that's why that's part of our history. It's something that, as moving forward, the trauma and all of those things still come through. So the great thing with working with her is that she believes in everybody. We're all in this thing together, and we make a better world, all of us, and I feel exactly the same way. So God has given her a mission. I'm doing my best to help her fulfill it. Look, and you guys are part of that, man. When you go home and talk about that you were here, you know, you guys were it. You got to meet, ask questions, live in history over here. And I'll give you a chance for like maybe one more question, but you also want pictures. And you also want to have a signed author's sticker, so that when you get your book, we expect that you're going to order it. Now, we have a Venmo over here. You can just click it and Venmo it. Again, Rita's just got the one in her hand. Maybe there's one other one, you know.
There's two left. I mean, I could not believe they went, because he had the box and he only brought a few in, and then he was like, looks like you need to run and get some more, and he brought the rest of them in, and they're just going.
It's a bad problem to have.
I think everyone should understand Harriet Tubman's journey. It didn't start in Maryland, it started from Ghana. You know, how the grandmother made that journey through the ocean, the Atlantic Ocean. And then from there, giving birth to Harriet's mother. And then she marrying Ben Ross, and them having 9 children, and how they went separate ways. Some of the daughters were slaved out. We don't know what happened to them. And that's one of the parts that's most, you don't know where your family is. Was that their real name? Modesty. What was her real name? Those are things we'll never get to know. But that's history that's lost. But what we have now is what we need to make sure that you pen it in. Because when we're gone, and you have family, you want them to know who they are. We don't want history to continue to repeat itself. That's the main thing. If they don't know where they came from, they're certainly not going to know where they're going, and they could end up in that same situation. So that's why I say it's important to know your history, know your journey, know what your family went through. And this is mine.
Amen.
Nice going. Thank you.
If anyone wants one of those 3 books, I don't know how you're gonna figure that out.
Go, Marty, go.
It's $28. Do I have 30? 200. They just put it in. All right.
So, thank you so much, that was wonderful. I guess we'll have Rita sign some of those little stickers. You know where to buy the book, right? And then there's some refreshments there while you're waiting for her to sign. If you want to just hang around a little bit and just finish signing. Thank you so much for coming. It was great.
So, yeah, thank you.
So the book tour is ending today for Connecticut. Westport had to stream because of bad weather. We wound up the next day on the Today Show. Al Roker, the crew, it was incredible. I have to tell you that Rita Daniel is a heck of a dynamic speaker. And if you missed her, you lost something. And we even wound up at the UN. So it's always great when we come here, and this time with the book, and it's moving up so quickly, we could not be happier. So, Rita, how do you feel about the success that you brought to this whole story right now at this level for your family?
Most certainly, it has been a journey for me, but also an honor. And I want to thank you for putting all of this together, Wayne, because I would not have been able to put all this together since I don't live here anyway. But I just want to say thank you, Bridgeport, Trumbull, every city and part of Connecticut that participated in purchasing the book and coming to these events. Certainly we had some difficult weather at the same time, but we were still able to pull people together. It was not in person, but it was certainly on Zoom. And I just want to thank everyone. Queen Mother, I thank her for being a part of this journey as well, who made sure that we were getting our book into the United Nations bookstore. So we just want to say thank you, thank you, thank you for everyone. Thank you for the mayor who came out and read the proclamation. Was everything that they've done and put together, I certainly do appreciate it. And hopefully, sooner or later, one day, we will be back. It's not over.
Harriet Tubman Day, May 10th. See you soon. Okay, take two. Harriet Tubman Day, March 10th. See you soon.